Hello, my name is Kyle Artist, and I want to welcome you back to my channel entitled Family. Let's talk about money. As always, this channel is brought to you by my insurance company, which is called AIC, Artist Insurance Consultants. So if you need a quote on life insurance or have questions that you would like answered, questions and quotes are free. So please give me a call. My number is 1-888-532-1153. Once again, that's 1-888-532-1153. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about an interesting subject, and it's entitled College, Is It For You? Now, as I was doing research for our discussion this evening, I came across something that I found very disturbing, and it's dealing with primary education, not even talking about college. But I want to take a few minutes to talk about that. And that is that a study group got together. The name is the National Center for Education Statistics. And they did a study of the Black community. And they saw that only 15% of 8th graders performed at or above a proficient level when it came to reading. And I really just found that disturbing. Because there was a time in this country when we were not allowed to learn to read and write. In fact, after the slave revolt led by Nat Turner in 1831, all the slave states except for 3 passed laws forbidding the teaching of reading and writing to the slaves. Yes, they made it illegal for us to learn to read and write. And now, basically 85% of us in our community are illiterate. It's interesting that we said 8th graders here. In this country, that's kind of how they set up or determine if a person is literate, is being able to read at an 8th grade level. And then they do the test again in the 12th grade, and oftentimes it doesn't change. So basically, when you see that statistic for 8th graders, that pretty much represents the community as a whole. And that is something that we have to fix. And it's something we can fix. And it's as simple as reading to your children. And start doing this at a young age. And as they get a little older, have them read to you. And if you're a person that cannot read well or cannot read, well, then hold a book in front of you and tell your child a story. Let them see that book in your hand. They don't know you're not reading, but it will plant a seed, a desire in them to want to learn to read. And that's important that we do that. I look back at when my children were young, very small. Like most young fathers, I worked long hours. And when I would come in, I wanted to make sure that the evenings I would give them their baths. That way they gave their mother a break, and also I got a chance to spend time with the children. So every night I would take them and I would give them their baths, put their pajamas on, and we would go into they'd get in their beds, and I would always read them a story. And as my children grew, both of them were avid readers. And at the time when I was doing that, I wasn't thinking about planting that seed in them to that desire to read. I was just wanting to spend some time with my children. But as I got older and looked back, I realized that was really important, that at that very young age, I planted that seed in them, that desire for reading. And like I said, they grew up and continue to be avid readers. So we got to realize that this has to take place at home. Nobody else is going to do this for us. By the time we learn about these numbers in the 8th grade, these kids are off to high school. And when they get to high school, when they look at our community, they're already writing them off, saying that these kids can't learn. We're not going to spend resources in these schools for these kids. And so this is something that we got to do on our own at home. Because when it comes to children, that seed of knowledge, it's natural. children, we all want to learn, but it's even more so when you're young. And if we cultivate that desire in our children, well, see, the sky's the limit. And so we want to make sure that we start this at a young age. If we want change, then we got to change the things we're doing. If we're doing it the way we've been doing it, obviously it's not working. So we got to be able to make change. And it's interesting, when it comes to change, one person can make a huge difference in the lives of children. I'm going to recommend 4 movies to watch. And all these movies, some of them you'll be familiar with, some of them you may not have heard of, but these movies were made about outstanding teachers and the effects that they had on their students. And when you see these stories, you see that these teachers were not just there to collect a check, and they were not just there doing what everybody else was doing. No, they saw a need and they went about it differently. And it was really out of love. But showing the love for these children, they reached their hearts. And these children went on to do amazing things that society automatically thought that they couldn't do. So the first movie I want to recommend is called Freedom Writers. And this is the story of a teacher by the name of Aaron Cruwell. Next, Lean on Me. Story of a teacher and principal, Joe Clark. The next is the Marva Collins story. And of course, the teacher is Marva Collins. All these teachers taught in communities where, as we mentioned before, society felt that these children weren't capable and had no desire to learn. But these teachers proved that theory wrong. The fourth is a little bit different. And this is a movie by the name of Thunder Soul. And the teacher is Conrad Johnson. And why I said it's a little different, because this Conrad Johnson was a high school music teacher. And he took these children in the black community and he put together what became the best high school jazz band, not just in Texas, the state they were in, or the U.S., actually the world. When other countries saw what these children were doing, they invited them to come to their countries because they wanted to see this incredible jazz band from this little school in Texas. So all these are tremendous stories, and they motivate us to show that no matter what society says about our children, if we giving them the push at home, and if they can find that special, those special teachers, because there's not just a few, there's many special teachers out there. And in talking about this, I'm not putting down teachers, but when they have the home support and they get with these good teachers, well, then the sky's the limit. And that, when I saw that 85% in our community is not reading at an 8th grade level, well, then it's time to make changes. And so everybody, if you have kids in the house, we need to be reading. We need to shut down the computers, shut off the TVs, and if it's just 15 minutes a day, it's not about the length of time, it's about the consistency. And if they did this every day, we could change that. And that's what we want to do. So I just wanted to mention that before I got into our topic for this evening. But let's get back to the topic. College, is it for you? Now we got to realize, when we talk about college is an investment in your future. Now, when you think of an investment, well, then you also want to consider what is going to be the return on investment. Or when you hear people talk about an ROI, that is the return on your investment. You see, you have to realize that college is good, but college loan debt is bad. So is the college loan debt worth what the education is going to provide you in your future? And that's what we're going to discuss tonight. Maybe look at some things that you haven't looked at before, or some things that you just don't know until your kids go to college. Some of these things we mentioned, I was shocked and to see how these things worked. And so we're going to discuss a few of them. But first and foremost, we need to understand, when we talk about college, these institutions are determined to separate you from your money. And we need to realize that. And I'm going to give you a couple examples. Books. I remember my son went to college, and we went up there and got him settled in the dorm and, bought the things he needed. And they had the orientation and things over the next couple of days. And then I get a phone call from my son, and he's like, "Dad, I'm going to need some money for books." Okay, you need books in college, so about how much do you need? He said $700. What? $700? So he's like, "Yeah, Dad, these books, some of these books are, $200 something. One book was actually $300. And I'm like, how can a book be that expensive? And they're not that expensive. These are $20 books. But you have to have that book, and since you have to have it, the college can demand whatever price. Now, in any other case, that's referred to as extortion. But it's commonplace on college campuses charging hundreds of dollars for books. One book was $150. This book was over $200. And like I said, one of the books was $300. And I remember going to pick my son up. I went down to the campus. I was going to pick him up, take him out to dinner, hit the grocery store, pick up some things he needed. And when I got to his dorm, he said, "Dad, come here, you got to see this." And he took the book. I think it might have been the most expensive book. And he turned to the back of it, and he opened up, and there was a stamp on the back cover of the book that said www dot whatever. And my son said, "Dad, we don't even use the book. All the lessons are done on this website." And so they charged we'll say $250. They charged $250 made you buy a book, and yet all you really needed was the website. These are things that are commonplace, but these are things you need to know when we're thinking about going to college. Now, let's talk about lodging. And this one really shocked me with my daughter. She's in college. She's out of state from where I'm at, and so she calls me and tells me, about her rooming and all. And I remember going there, and I believe it was like 2 bedrooms. Both bedrooms had 2 beds in it and a bathroom. And then there was like a common area for the desk where they would study. There was 4 girls in the room, and they said it was $1,000 a month. And I said, okay, that's not bad. 4 girls, $1,000, $250 a piece. I said, that's pretty good. And then it was like, "No, Dad, it's $1,000 for me and $1,000 for each of them." I'm like, wait a minute. You're telling me that they're paying $4,000 a month for this 2-bedroom dorm? I'm like, what? Yeah, it was $1,000 a month. And of course, there was no kitchen, because they had a kitchen in there, they could cook their own food, and then they wouldn't need their meal ticket. So, I mean, the way the colleges are set up, if you're not prepared or don't have a knowledge, You're going to be shocked when you send your kids to college, when you see how much you have to pay for things that should not be nowhere near that expensive. And then something else that's interesting about that, the next year, her dorm actually went up. It was $1,100 a month. And most colleges will not let you live off campus until your junior and senior year. And so you're basically tied into that dorm living and paying those expensive prices for at least 2 years before you can go off campus and find something reasonable. And you find out that when she went off campus, that everything that was close by, they did it just like the dorms. It'd be a 2-bedroom apartment, be 2 girls in there, $1,000 a piece. See, it's $1,000 apartment, but hey, it was working with the college, so they took advantage of it too. And then it was still close enough to, they could still walk to campus. So I'm telling you, those institutions have no problem trying to separate you from your money. And I just think everybody needs to understand that. Now, the average student loan debt is about $38,000. All student loan debt combined in the country is $1.6 trillion. Now, let's talk about that return on your investment. Like we said, this money that you paid, is it worth, the education that you got, is it worth the money that you paid for? So let's look at some of these returns on investment. All right, 27% of college grads get jobs in their field. So 27% of college grads get jobs in their field. So that pretty much takes care of the professions that require that degree to get that job, such as doctors, lawyers, engineers, teachers. So that's the groups that would, and so you want to think about that when your child is talking about going to college and what kind of major. Is it going to major in something that requires that degree, so when they come out, well, that degree will help them get a job in the field in which they choose. That's important. Also, now 41% of recent college grads are unemployed. Now, that stat is a stat from 2020, and I'm sure COVID had something to do that has that number inflated, but I wanted to use the most recent stats. And these are still things, that's the new world we're living in. So we're seeing a lot of companies cutting back. People are working at home. They don't need as many people. These are the things you want to keep in mind as your children are preparing to go off to college. And this next stat, this one is kind of a tough one because it says 34% are underemployed. So 30% of college graduates are underemployed. What does that mean? That means that they are working jobs that do not require a degree. Now, could you imagine? You come out of college, $40,000 of debt, and you're working a job standing next to somebody that got the same job, getting the same pay, and they didn't go off to college and get that debt. These are the things you want to think about when it comes to college. Now, you may think that I am anti-college because of what I'm saying, and nothing could be further from the truth. Both my children went to college. My son, he went the first year, did well, but he really did not like the college he went to. And he decided that he wanted to get into the workforce. And I'm like, that's fine if that's what you want to do. My daughter, in fact, just last weekend, I just got back from going down to Georgia, and I attended her college graduation as she graduated with her master's degree in education. And I could not be more proud as a father. So do not think that I am anti-college. That is not the case at all. But I want you to remember the premise of this channel. See, I invite you into my home. We sit around that dinner table and we have discussions that will help you make better financial decisions. And so we're just talking the real about college. So often when it comes to college, it's emotional. Oh, my child got accepted to so and so. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we also want to count the cost. College is an investment in your child's future. What is the return on that investment? So that's why we're having this discussion today. Also, too often in our community, we talk like it's college or else. If you don't have college, you don't have a future. And this has troubled me for years because I can remember many years ago when I was living in Georgia, this may be 25 years ago. I can remember there was a sign that was an advertisement for the United Negro College Fund. And I did not like the message, but I hated the location. And the advertisement simply said, no college, no future. And the location of this was right outside of a housing project where the vast majority of those children would not have the opportunity to go to college. And where the school was, these children passed that sign every day. And it was up for years. I thought there was probably some more to it than just an advertisement. I thought that was giving a subliminal message that was very negative to that community. But basically, telling a bunch of kids that aren't going to go to college, well, if you don't go to college, you have no future. And that I am totally against because it's not true. Like I said, if you can go to college, fine. If you count the cost and you feel that you will get the return on your investment, then college is a great thing. See, but there's also other ways to make money. These right here, these are the greatest tools in the world. If a person learns to work with their hands, they can make a very good living. For over 20 years, I worked as a electromechanical technician, which basically means that I worked on industrial machinery inside factories. So when those machines would break or go down, I would go fix them. And that is a skill set that will keep you employed the rest of your life. Because when those machines go down in a production, see, they're just kicking out product. And when those machines stop, well, it does not take very long before it starts to cost that company a lot of money for that production not going on, that production being down. Downtime costs money in factories. So being able to walk up to that machine, troubleshoot the issue, and get it back up and running in a timely manner, believe me, you would never be out of work. Also, when you got jobs like plumbers, mechanics, electricians, HVAC, there's always a need for this skill. And sadly, this generation, these younger generations don't want to work with their hands. They want to work on the computers and do things. But there's always a need for a person that is skilled and can work with their hands. To give an example, let's talk about electricians. You know what the average age of electricians are in this country right now? 55 years old. The average age of electricians. That means the young men aren't wanting to learn this trade. But these are trades that are always going to be needed. And the beautiful thing about these trades also is that, let's say you're a plumber. You get hired on, And well, for some of these, well, let me back up a little bit, because there's also education needed in these fields, but they're much cheaper, and the courses may be like 6 months instead of 4 years. And there's programs that will allow you, they will hire you in, and you can learn in an apprentice program, on the job training that's not going to cost you anything. So either way is fine. But the beauty of it is you work for these companies and you learn these trades. You get good at it. Then you start making money doing it on the side, because there's always people that's going to need plumbers, mechanics, electricians, people to fix their air conditioners or heaters. So you learn it and you do this on the side. And once you start doing it on the side, your goal should be to eventually start your own business in doing that. And so these are the things that you want to keep in mind. Even at young ages, start pointing, the young men in our community to learn to do these things. And it will take care of them the rest of their lives. So that's why I wanted to have this discussion today. When I asked the question, college, is it for you? If it is, fine. If it's not, then learn to do other things. Learn to work with your hands. See, they call these the skills that pay the bills. And so it's important. Now, let me go to another point. And of course, I always circle back around to insurance. But when should you plan? When should you start the planning for your child to go to school? Usually, we start about their junior year in high school. That's when they start looking into different scholarships that are available. That's when they start taking their entrance exams, their SATs, their ACTs, and things like that. But honestly, if you wait till then, it's way too late. I'm going to tell you when you should start planning for college. When your wife is pregnant with your first child, that's when the plan for college should start. And as soon as that child is born, all of us are familiar with Gerber. When we think of babies, we think of Gerber, the Gerber baby food. Well, Gerber actually has an insurance too, a life insurance policy that you can put on that child the day that they're born. And it's an insurance/college fund program that as you're making these premiums over these 18 years, and the money is being invested in index funds and things, and the money is building money, so that when that child is ready to go to college, well, then they can take that money that you've paid into all those years and use that toward their college. If the child doesn't go to college, well, they can keep it as an insurance policy for the child. But these are the type of things we need to start learning about even before the child is born. They're a trust. If we're able to have money to put aside, we could start a trust that will build while that child is growing. That could be pay for the kid's college. Different bonds. There's different things we can do, but if we start at birth, well, then it has time to build that money, and that could actually pay for the child's college. So these are the things I just wanted to mention to you today. I thought it was an interesting topic, and some people may not like it because they get very emotional when it comes to college. But like I said, I am not anti-college at all. But I want us to look at the whole picture. And so if you have any questions on that Gerber policy, or starting young to set money aside for your children's school, give me a call. Once again, my number is 1-888-532-1153. Well, enjoyed having you at the table again today. I enjoyed the discussion, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. Y'all have a good week. Bye.